Hello everyone, so I was just on YouTube and I just saw this insane title. The man who sacrificed millions to save billions by Veritasium. What? Is that Latin? Huh. Okay, let's check it out because this is really enticing. 3, 2, 1, go.
The 1918 Nobel Prize for Chemistry is probably the most important Nobel Prize ever awarded. It was given to German scientist Fritz Haber for solving one of the biggest problems humanity has ever faced. His invention is directly responsible for the lives of 4 billion people today. But when he received his prize, many of his peers refused to attend. 2 other Nobel Prize winners rejected their awards in protest. And the New York Times wrote a scathing article about him.
That go begging.
He is simultaneously one of the most impactful and tragic scientists of all time.
Ooh, I'm ready.
Perhaps more than any other single person.
The quality, the production quality is off the fucking roof, man. Let's go.
Perhaps more than any other single person, he has shaped the world we live in today.
What did he invent? Humor.
Part of this video is sponsored by Ren. More about them at the end of the show.
America.
If you are an American citizen and you find an island with a lot of bird poop on it, well then you can claim that island for the United States, and the US will have your back. The president is authorized to send in the Navy and the Army to defend your newly discovered poop-covered island. There are currently 10 American islands that were claimed in this way. And even though the law that made this possible was passed in 1856, it is still in effect to this day.
That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. What if there are natives on that island? Okay, if it's like it's literally uninhabited and it's just there's no one there, sure. But like if there are people in there, or if there are like a different kind of a species in there of like animals or things that are not good with humans, maybe don't do that, people. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
So why did people want poop-covered islands so badly?
Fertilizer?
There are a few dozen islands off the coast of Peru where millions of seabirds gather to mate. And the waters near the island are full of fish. And these millions of birds eat the fish, and then they poop. A lot.
Is it?
Since the region is hot and dry, this poop solidifies and accumulates over millennia. There are cliffs of bird poop 30 meters or 100 feet high.
Literally poop island. What do you use the poop for?
Technically, bird poop is called guano, and by the mid-1800s, buying and selling bird guano was big business. The price rose as high as $76 per pound, meaning you could trade 4 pounds of guano for 1 pound of gold.
So why was there such a big market for bird poop? Well, to answer that, we have to look inside the human body.
Where is this going? Okay.
By weight,
I love
most of our bodies are made up of oxygen, carbon, and hydrogen. But the 4th most common element is nitrogen. Nitrogen is part of the amino acids that form proteins. It's part of hemoglobin, the compound that carries oxygen in red blood cells. And it's a central component of DNA and RNA.
Yes.
Nitrogen is essential for all life on Earth. We get our nitrogen by eating plants, or animals which have eaten plants. And plants get their nitrogen from the soil. The problem is, if you farm the same soil year after year, you harvest the nitrogen out of it. And eventually, there isn't enough nitrogen for healthy plants to grow. They can't produce enough chlorophyll to photosynthesize, which stunts their growth. Their leaves turn yellow, and they are more susceptible to pests and disease. Crucially for farmers, nitrogen deficiency means smaller yields.
That sucks.
The way to fix this is to add nitrogen back into the soil, which is where bird guano comes in. Guano is up to 20% nitrogen.
Nice.
Hundreds of years ago, Incan farmers realized that adding guano to their soil made crops grow taller. This is what allowed them to grow food in places that were previously unfarmable and expand their empire.
So wait. So fertilizer started around 1400s? The usage of fertilizer, people knew putting shit in ground makes ground good, fertile.
Expand their empire.
That's weird.
South America's rich deposits
That's
of
too
bird
early.
poop did not go unnoticed by the rest of the world. In 1865, Spain...
Okay, give me a second. I need to see if I'm correct. Where did... Okay, birth of fertilizer. When did they do this? The first episode produced by chemicals made in the 19th century. So that was bullshit. It wasn't in 1400s, but 19th
went
century.
to war against its former colonies of Peru, Chile, Ecuador, and Bolivia for control of their guano-laden islands.
So
But such was the world's
all that
appetite
poop
for
shit.
nitrogen that by 1872, guano was running out, and Peru banned further exports. The world would need another way to get its nitrogen fix.
Oof.
This
Isn't it
was a
in the
crisis.
air?
William
No, it's not.
Crookes,
That's
a British
hydrogen. Never
chemist,
mind.
made a
I'm
dire
an idiot.
prophecy in 1898. With the world's growing population and dwindling supplies of nitrogen, he said, "We stand in deadly peril of not having enough to eat. In less than 30 years' time," he argued, "people all over the world will be dying of starvation." But he also proposed a solution.
No, I think okay. If it's something despicable, I can probably guess what it
It
is.
is the chemist who must come to the rescue. It is through the laboratory that starvation may ultimately be turned into plenty.
Because here's the thing. Nitrogen isn't rare, it's common. 78% of the air is nitrogen.
So it
But
is.
it's
I
in a
was
form
correct.
that plants and animals can't use. 2 atoms of nitrogen triple bonded together.
Oh, that's so cool! That is so fucking cool! I love that.
This bond is one of the strongest in nature. The way to measure the strength of a chemical bond is by the amount of energy that's required to break it. So,
Okay.
to break apart 2 chlorine atoms, for example, would take 2.5 electron volts. To break apart 2 carbons requires 3.8 eV. 2 oxygens, 5.2
Easy.
eV.
Oh, that shit, you can't even hit that shit with your hand, bro.
But to break apart 2 atoms of nitrogen requires
it.
9.8 electron volts, a tremendous amount of energy.
I don't know what that means. I don't have a reference of what is an electron volt? What the fuck is that?
There are 2 processes that do this naturally.
Okay, fuck it. Oh, basically free electrons that go to the other side because of lower pressure, lower bar. I
Lightning
just read it.
releases so much energy it breaks apart N2 into individual nitrogen
go.
atoms. They then quickly react to form nitrogen oxides. And these molecules stay in the atmosphere until they react with water droplets in clouds and fall to the ground in
Oh, I
rain.
read about this in chemistry.
There are
Holy
also
shit.
a few types of
I love
bacteria
this.
living in soil that can break the N2 bond, using a tremendous amount of energy to do so. And they make nitrogen available for plants.
But bacteria only replenish the nitrogen slowly, and there's not enough lightning to produce nitrogen compounds at
Add
scale.
more bacteria to
So
the
chemists
solution.
tried.
In 1811, Georg Hildebrandt mixed nitrogen
Georg?
and hydrogen in a sealed flask,
Georg? Is that Georg or is that George? Come on.
trying to make ammonia, one of the nitrogen-containing molecules found in guano. When that didn't work, he submerged the flask 300 meters underwater
I love
to
the
increase the
animation.
pressure. And that didn't work either, but he was on the right track.
Increasingly sophisticated versions of these experiments were carried out over the following 100 years.
Nice.
All of them failed.
Oh.
So when Fritz Haber became interested in this problem in 1904, he was joining a long line of failed chemists. He was 36 years old, working as a low-level academic at the University of Karlsruhe. He was also a new father, with a 2-year-old boy named Hermann and a wife,
Nice.
Clara, who was one of the first...
Oh my god, that girl has venom. Oh my, look how she looks at stuff. Jesus Christ. Isn't that a bit venom? Come on, tell me in the comments. Isn't those eyes are like looking at something very dangerous or very... she wants to manipulate something. You just can feel it, sense it from the eyes alone.
women to get a PhD in chemistry.
Never mind, she wants to get a PhD.
Driven by pride and competition with another
Determination,
scientist, Haber spent 5 years on the problem. His idea was to combine nitrogen and hydrogen not only at high pressure, but also at high temperature, and in the presence of a catalyst, something that lowers the amount of energy required to split diatomic nitrogen. To do this, new experimental apparatus had to be invented. Haber worked tirelessly on this project, building equipment that could tolerate ever higher temperatures and pressures.
He also got lucky. At the time, he was moonlighting as a technical consultant for a light bulb manufacturer. So there he had access to lots of really hard-to-find materials, like the element osmium.
Osmium is rare. In his day, there was only about 100 kilograms of the refined metal in existence. But the company he worked for was experimenting with using it for filaments in their light bulbs, so they had most of the world's supply. Haber suspected it might make the perfect catalyst, so he brought a sample back to his lab.
Oh, please.
There, in the 3rd week of March 1909, Haber placed his sheet of osmium in the pressure chamber. And then he pressurized and heated the nitrogen and hydrogen to 200 atmospheres and 500 degrees Celsius. Under these conditions, the triple bonds broke apart, and nitrogen reacted with hydrogen. Of the total gas mixture, 6% turned into ammonia. When the gas was cooled, 1 milliliter of ammonia dripped out the end of a narrow tube into a beaker.
Oh my god.
An elated Haber rushed from one lab to another, yelling, "Come on down, there's ammonia!" Germany's biggest chemical company, BASF, commercialized Haber's process. Within 4 years, they had opened a factory in Oppau, producing 5 tons of ammonia per day. People spoke of making bread from the air.
This is true.
With the fertilizer from this industrial process, on the same plot of land, farmers were able to grow 4 times as much food. And as a result, the population of the Earth quadrupled. There's a good chance you owe your life to Haber's invention. The Earth supports 4 billion more people today than it could without nitrogen fertilizer.
Seriously.
In fact, around 50% of the nitrogen atoms in your body came from the Haber process.
No fucking, oh my god. Just imagine, you're like the successor of failure. You came after so many people failed before you, and on that job, how overjoyed was he? Like, how overjoyed was he? And of course, I don't know, why did people hated him though? Why did other scholars of his, I don't know, let's see.
The invention made Fritz Haber a wealthy man. He got a promotion, becoming the founding director of the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Physical Chemistry in Berlin. He also befriended some of the best scientists of his day, including Max Planck, Max Born, and Albert Einstein.
Oh my god, holy shit, he's
After
there.
Einstein separated from his friend and...
Einstein was such a player, bro. Look at him. Look at him. Is one of these girls is Madame Curie, isn't it? No, it doesn't seem like
Albert Einstein. After Einstein separated from his first wife in 1914, he stayed the night at Haber's house. But if Haber was so well regarded, why was he shunned by colleagues when he won the Nobel Prize? Well,
what
it
about the
all comes down
sacrifice?
to what happened in World War I.
Wait,
When the war
nitrogen
broke
bomb?
out, Haber volunteered for military duty. Unlike pacifist Einstein, who denounced the war, Haber was a patriot. He wanted to use his expertise to help his country. Only a few months into the war...
To be fair, as pacifist as Einstein was, the result became the atomic bomb. So it doesn't really matter at the end if you're a pacifist. If your actions lead to billions dying, I mean, not billions.
Use his expertise to help his country. Only a few months into the war, the German army was already running out of gunpowder and explosives. Ammonium nitrate, besides being an excellent fertilizer, is also an explosive. Just look at what happened in Beirut in August of 2020.
Oh yeah, fuck, that was fucked up. As a Middle Eastern, that was fucked up.
A warehouse containing almost 3,000 tons of ammonium nitrate.
Okay, that is crazy, but the problem that started that and is going to happen to us soon is that the food silos got destroyed too. So the food shortage is gonna happen
fire.
soon. It's happening
in the
right now.
extreme heat, the fertilizer detonated. The blast, which could be heard hundreds of kilometers away, killed at least 217 people and injured thousands more. Seismometers registered an artificial earthquake measuring 3.3 on the Richter scale. This is just
Christ.
one of many fertilizer-related explosions. The Oppau plant, where Haber's process was first put into practice, would also explode in 1921.
Oh no.
And the reason is nitrogen. We've already seen that it takes a tremendous amount of energy to break apart nitrogen's triple bond. But the flip side of that coin is that when two nitrogen atoms come together and form that bond, a huge amount of energy is released.
The explosions of gunpowder, TNT, nitroglycerin, and ammonium nitrate all form diatomic nitrogen gas as a product. And the formation of that triple bond is where these chemicals derive much of their explosive energy. Haber lobbied to convert the factories using his process to make ammonia for fertilizer to create
Ammunition.
nitrate for
Oof.
explosives instead.
Oh no.
His
Yeah,
superiors believed such a conversion to be impossible, but Haber persisted, and soon his chemical process was at the heart of the German war machine. From bread out of the air to bombs out of the air.
fuck. Double-edged
But
sword,
Haber
mate.
thought chemistry could make an even bigger contribution to the war.
Oh no.
In December 1914, he witnessed a chemical weapons test. He was unimpressed. Haber believed that he could do better. He set out to make a gas that was deadly at low concentrations and heavier than air, so it would sink into enemy trenches. Projectiles carrying chemical weapons were banned, at least in theory, by the Hague Convention of 1899. But in practice, after the start of the war, Germany, France, and Britain all experimented with chemical weapons. Haber converted his wing of the Institute into a chemical weapons laboratory, and after only a few months of work, he zeroed in on chlorine gas.
Oh my
An
god.
employee, Otto
Oh my god, that is fucking insane.
Hahn expressed his discomfort about the new weapon. Haber told him, innumerable human lives would be saved if the war could be ended more quickly in this way.
True and not justifiable though. It's
At
not
6 p.m. on the
justifiable.
22nd of April, with the wind blowing toward the Allied trenches, German troops released 168 tons of chlorine from over 5,000 gas cylinders. The wall of gas advanced across the battlefield. Since chlorine gas is 2.5 times heavier than air, it sank
stays-
into the
it
trenches of the
stays to the
Allied
ground.
soldiers. Any soldier that inhaled a lungful of the gas
Burned.
suffered a
It's-
terrible death.
It's just
Chlorine irritates the mucus lining of the lungs so violently that they fill with liquid. The soldiers effectively drowned on dry land. More than 5,000 Allied soldiers died this way in the first attack.
Oh fuck! Sorry, this is really emotional because I haven't seen color poisoning and gas poisoning, but I've seen mustard gases effects on people in hospitals, and it is brutal. Like no human, no matter how despicable and animalistic or like murderous they are, shouldn't die of those gases, because they burn and they make you suffer for the rest of your life if they don't kill you.
Haber was promoted to the rank of captain, and a week later he was back home in Berlin. On the 1st of May, the Habers hosted a dinner party, and after the party wound down, Fritz took sleeping pills and went to bed. But that night, his wife Clara took his gun and went outside into the garden, and there she fired a single shot into her chest. Her 12-year-old son Herman heard the shot and ran outside to find his mother as she lay dying. The next morning, Fritz Haber was on a train to the Eastern Front to supervise a gas attack on the Russian army.
Some have claimed Clara killed herself because of her husband's obsession with chemical weapons. And that may have been part of it, but honestly we don't know, because no first-hand accounts survive that support this interpretation. What we do know is that Clara was deeply unhappy in her marriage. In 1910, after being married for 8 years to Fritz, she wrote to a friend, "What Fritz has won during these 8 years, that and still more I have lost. And what remains ahead of me fills me with the deepest dissatisfaction."
Yeah, she wanted to get a PhD. Did she get her PhD though? I mean, they don't call her Dr. Clara, so probably didn't. That's fucked up. Like, the man you're married, your significant other is winning so much, yet you can't. And then the man wins a Nobel Prize and then kills so many people with gas. And as a scientist, if you know what he's doing, is absolutely disgusting too. Just imagine knowing someone like that and being against it. I mean, he said that it probably isn't that, but like it's not gonna not help the issue, depression and dissatisfaction of this girl.
After Clara's suicide, Haber spent the rest of the war running his institute, researching chemical weapons, gas masks, and pesticides. By 1917, the institute employed 1,500 people, including 150 scientists. It was like a mini Manhattan Project, but for chemical weapons. In total, 100,000 soldiers were killed by chemical weapons in World War I. When Germany surrendered, Haber was crushed. All the money he made from his ammonia patent was lost to hyperinflation. In an attempt to pay off Germany's crippling war debt, he tried to distill gold from seawater, but the project was futile. In 1933, the Nazis came to power and passed a law that all Jewish civil servants, including scientists, were to be fired from their jobs. Haber was Jewish, but he never practiced the religion. Regardless, his military service exempted him from the law, but he resigned from his role as director in solidarity with all the Jewish scientists who worked at the institute.
Makes sense. Thank God.
The next year, in a hotel room in Basel, Switzerland, he died of heart failure.
A sponsor, please.
Immediately after World War I, Haber's institute developed a cyanide-based insecticide. It had a barely detectable odor, so they mixed in a foul-smelling chemical to alert people to the danger. The resulting gas was called Zyklon B. A decade after Haber's death, the Nazis requested chemists remove the foul-smelling component. And this form of Zyklon B, the chemical developed at Haber's institute, was then used to perpetrate the Holocaust.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
Thinking about this story, it would be easy to paint Haber as a villain, or as a hero, for inventing the process used to feed half the world. But another approach is to regard him as irrelevant to the larger story, because someone else would have figured out a way to process nitrogen out of the air, and other scientists were developing chemical weapons. Over the past few centuries, science and technology have improved our lives immeasurably, but they have also given us ever-increasing ways to destroy ourselves.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great to believe that we could ask scientists to only work on problems that are good for humanity. But the reality is that every bit of information is a potential double-edged sword. You don't know the outcome of your research or how it might later be used. Ammonium nitrate is both a fertilizer and an explosive.
True.
So the real question is, how do we keep increasing our knowledge and control of the natural world without destroying ourselves and everything else on this planet in the process?
It's not an easy question. It's everything, almost everything that about science is a double-edged sword. Like, everything that we invent can kill us, basically. Jesus Christ, man. Like, oh, that was an amazing story. Amazing yet terrifying story.
So chemistry has made it possible for 8 billion of us to live on this planet and to have the standard of living that we do. But as a byproduct, we've changed the atmosphere, and now we're suffering the consequences in the form of more frequent and severe heat waves, among other things. Which brings me to an offer directly from me to you. I want to offset 1 month of your carbon emissions, and I'll do it with this video's sponsor, Ren. On their website, you can calculate how much carbon you emit and which activities have the greatest impact. And if you like, you can offset your emissions through a monthly subscription. But they don't just plant trees. One of the projects they're currently backing is a pilot study in Scotland called Enhanced Mineral Weathering. So the way it works is they spread small basalt rocks throughout forested areas. And then when it rains, those raindrops contain dissolved CO2 in the form of carbonic acid. And when the rain hits the basalt, it reacts and the pH increases. Now that turns carbonic acid into carbonates, like calcium carbonate, and that precipitates out. So in this solid mineral form, the carbon is trapped potentially for thousands of years.
It was before.
And this is the kind of chemical innovation we may need to solve the climate crisis. So if you want to join me in offsetting your carbon footprint, then click the link in the description. Ren is completely transparent about where they invest the money, and they'll send you monthly email updates. If you're one of the first 100 people to sign up, I will personally pay for your first month of CO2 offsets.
Oh my God.
Which is not a standard offer, it is just something I really wanted to do. So I want to thank Ren for sponsoring this part of the video, and I want to thank you for watching.
Yeah, the more ways we have, to just like to clean the shit that we produce, the better. Thank God that this website, who is sponsoring this channel, actually found such an amazing way to just increase the pH and to change it to something better. Now, I don't understand what the fuck he was talking about a minute before that, but I get the gist of it. And it's a very insane story. We went from creating food for millions, like basically feeding the world. He fed the world with food, to God, to creating. I think that's the thing. He's not a hero. He's not a villain. He basically is a scientist. That's what scientists do. They find solution for the problems that we have at the moment. At the moment, it was the starvation. So he figured something out that many failed before him and saved the world. After that, it was a war. Now, it was a war that he didn't really wanted to lose. So he just joined military and made fucking biological weapon. Not biological. I mean, it is biological. Basically, in the microbic and things are like microbes and viruses are biological, but this is not. This is more like just gas, just coloring gas and fucking cyanide after that, and it kept going. It fucking kept going, and so many people died horrendous deaths. But that was his solution to that problem. Yeah, we can hate him, but again, he figured something out and used it at the best way he could. It is fucked up and sad, but again, after that, he didn't have any responsibility for it because he died and he was not in the best mood because of his wife. So, I don't know. I seriously don't know. What I think about him is the fact that he was a human being who contributed a lot to his species. But other than that, in this case, what happened in World War II with Jewish population and Holocaust, that is not his responsibility, but he has indirect responsibility for it, you know? It's just a horrendous story, but it's a story that we need to know because these kind of people changed the world. And of course changed my view of how I perceive different people. Like, how many people that we hate immensely actually changed the humanity for the better? Now, I'm going to check out more of this channel, but if you want more reactions, just let me know. This dude is an absolute chat. I love that video. See you later.